Today, we're looking at 5 state quarters that collectors watch closely because small differences in condition, mint marks, striking errors, and unusual varieties can make a huge difference in value. And trust me, the final coins in this list could completely change the way you look at your spare change. Now, let's begin with a coin that millions of Americans remember seeing in their everyday change. But there is a reason collectors still pay close attention to certain examples of the 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter. At first glance, this quarter may look completely ordinary, but turn it over and you will see one of the most recognizable designs in modern American coin history. The coin we are looking at is the 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter in extra fine condition. On the reverse, instead of the traditional eagle found on regular Washington quarters, you'll see a colonial drummer standing beside a torch surrounded by 13 stars. That drummer design was created to celebrate 200 years of American independence, making this coin much more than just another quarter. The obverse features the familiar portrait of George Washington, but there's one detail you should check immediately. Look for the dual date, 1776 to 1976, directly beneath Washington. That unusual date was used throughout the bicentennial coin program and instantly separates this quarter from ordinary Washington quarters. Now here is where things become interesting. An extra fine coin like this one shows noticeable signs of circulation, but the major design details should still remain strong. Washington's hair should have visible definition, the lettering should be clear, and the drummer and surrounding stars on the reverse should still have good detail. You may see light wear on the highest points, but the coin should not be completely flat or heavily damaged, and remember, condition matters. Millions of bicentennial quarters were produced, so simply finding a 1776 to 1976 quarter does not automatically make it rare. In circulated extra fine condition, many examples are worth only around face value to a small premium, depending on the exact type, mint mark, and collector demand. But that does not mean you should throw it back into your change. The real excitement begins when you start checking for unusual characteristics. First, look at the mint mark. A small letter near Washington's neck tells you where the coin was produced. You may find a Philadelphia issue without a mint mark, a Denver issue marked with a D, or a San Francisco issue marked with an S. Different bicentennial quarter varieties were also struck in different compositions and finishes, so knowing exactly what you have is extremely important. Next, examine the coin under good lighting. Look around the date, lettering, stars, drummer, and rim. You're looking for genuine mint-made errors, not damage that happened after the coin left the mint. A strong doubled design, major striking error, unusual planchet problem, or another authenticated mint error can turn an ordinary-looking quarter into a much more interesting collectible. This is where collectors sometimes make a mistake. A dark spot, scratch, stain, or unusual color does not automatically mean the quarter is rare. Environmental damage and circulation marks can create strange appearances. A valuable error needs to be carefully examined and, for a major claim, professionally authenticated. Now, let's talk about value, because this is where the story can get surprising. A normal circulated bicentennial quarter is generally not a hidden fortune simply because it carries the 1776 to 1976 date, but exceptionally preserved examples, scarce varieties, special compositions, and especially major authenticated errors can bring dramatically higher prices. In the most extreme cases, rare mint errors in top condition can command thousands of dollars, and exceptional certified pieces can attract much stronger bids. You may hear huge claims online about bicentennial quarters being worth hundreds of thousands or even more. Be very careful with those numbers. A coin does not become a $450,000 treasure simply because someone says so in a video or online listing. Extraordinary prices require extraordinary evidence, and the exact variety, grade, authentication, and documented auction history all matter. That is actually good news for you, because you don't need to believe every unbelievable price claim. You simply need to know what to look for. Take your quarter and compare the rims. Check the lettering. Study the drummer. Look closely at the stars and torch. Examine the date and mint mark. If something looks dramatically different from another bicentennial quarter, don't clean it, and don't polish it. Cleaning can permanently reduce a coin's collector value. And if your example really is in extra fine condition, that already makes it more interesting than a heavily worn coin, because more of the original design remains visible. The next step is determining whether it has a recognized variety or mint error. Imagine finding one in an old family collection, a jar of coins from the 1970s, or a box that has been sitting untouched for decades. That is exactly why coin hunting can be so exciting. You are not only looking at money, you are holding a small piece of the United States bicentennial celebration. But don't get too comfortable, because this is only our first stop. Now, we move to one of the very first coins in the famous 50-state quarters program, the 1999 Connecticut state quarter. This is a coin that many Americans remember seeing in their change around the turn of the century. But today, collectors look at these quarters much more carefully. And if your 1999 Connecticut quarter is in extra fine condition, there are several details you should check before deciding that it is just another 25-cent coin. The Connecticut quarter was released in 1999 as part of the first year of the 50-state quarters program. The reverse features one of Connecticut's most famous symbols, the charter oak. According to the story behind the design, the charter oak became an important symbol of Connecticut's independence and history. The tree on the quarter is surrounded by the words Connecticut, the charter oak, in 1788. The year Connecticut joined the Union. Turn the coin over, and you'll see the familiar portrait of George Washington. The date 1999 appears below him, along with the appropriate mint mark if it was struck at Denver or Philadelphia. These small details may seem simple, but they are exactly where your search should begin. Now, take a close look at the extra fine example we're examining. Extra fine means the coin has experienced some circulation, but important design details are still clearly visible. On Washington's portrait, you should still see good definition in the hair and facial features, although the highest points will show some light wear. Around the rim, the lettering should remain sharp, and the coin should still have a strong overall appearance. On the reverse, the charter oak is the area that deserves special attention. Look carefully at the branches, trunk, and leaves. You want to see clear separation between the major elements instead of a completely smooth or worn surface. Also inspect the lettering around the edge. Strong, readable lettering is important when judging the overall condition of the coin. But here comes the part that can make this search exciting. The 1999 Connecticut quarter was produced in enormous numbers, so a normal circulated example is not automatically rare. In extra fine condition, most ordinary examples are still relatively modestly valued, often around face value or a small premium, depending on demand and the exact issue. However, collectors do not simply search for old coins. They search for unusual coins. Start by checking the mint mark. A Philadelphia example will normally have no mint mark, while a Denver example carries a D. Compare your coin with a known normal example from the same mint. If the design looks different, especially around the lettering, date, or tree, that difference deserves a closer look. Next, examine the surface under bright light. Are there unusual raised lines? Is part of the design doubled? Does the rim look unusually thick or incomplete? Is there a strange area where the metal appears to have flowed differently during striking? These clues can sometimes point toward a genuine mint error, but there is an important warning. Not every strange-looking Connecticut quarter is valuable. Scratches, dents, stains, corrosion, and damage from machines can make a coin look unusual even though the mint did nothing wrong. A genuine mint error normally has characteristics created during the manufacturing process, and major errors should be authenticated before anyone makes a serious value claim. And now, let's talk about the numbers. A regular 1999 Connecticut quarter in circulated extra fine condition is generally not a $450,000 coin. Claims of massive values should never be accepted without evidence. The truly dramatic prices in the state quarter series are associated with exceptional errors, rare varieties, superb certified grades, or other unusual circumstances, not simply the year 1999 or the Connecticut design. For an ordinary extra fine quarter, think in terms of a collectible that may have only a modest premium. But if you discover a major, authenticated mint error, the story can change quickly. Depending on the exact error and grade, some unusual state quarters can move from pocket change into the hundreds or thousands of dollars, with extraordinary examples reaching far higher. That is why your first goal should not be asking, "How much is my quarter worth?" Your first question should be, "What exactly do I have?" Look at the date. Check the mint mark. Study the charter oak. Inspect the rim. Compare the lettering. Then look at Washington's portrait. If anything appears dramatically different, set the coin aside and investigate it before cleaning or altering it. And please remember this important rule. Never clean a potentially valuable coin. That shiny appearance might look attractive to the eye, but cleaning can leave scratches and permanently reduce collector appeal. The beauty of the 1999 Connecticut quarter is that it connects everyday pocket change with a major moment in American collecting history. The launch of the state quarters program encouraged millions of people to look at their change in a completely different way. Parents collected them, grandparents saved them, children searched through coin jars looking for the next state, and decades later, that search is still going. So, if you have a 1999 Connecticut quarter in extra fine condition, don't ignore it. Give it a careful examination. You might not be holding a fortune simply because it says Connecticut, but you could be holding a coin with a fascinating history, a valuable error, or a condition that makes it more desirable to collectors. And remember, the most valuable coin is not always the oldest one. Sometimes, the most important clue is hiding in a tiny detail that most people never notice. So keep that magnifying glass ready, because we're moving on to another state quarter where condition, rarity, and small differences can make a very big difference in what collectors are willing to pay. Now, we're moving to a state quarter that many people may overlook simply because it is much newer than the classic coins collectors usually chase. This is the 2007 Idaho state quarter, and if your example is in extra fine condition, don't put it back into the coin jar just yet. There are several important details worth checking, because sometimes the story behind a coin is hiding in places most people never think to look. The Idaho quarter was released in 2007 as part of the United States 50 State Quarters program. By this point, the program was already a huge success, with Americans across the country collecting coins from every state. Idaho became the 43rd state represented in the series, and its quarter carries a design that immediately connects the coin to Idaho's natural beauty. Turn the coin over and you'll see the image of a peregrine falcon. The bird is shown in flight, representing Idaho's wildlife and natural environment. Around the design are the words Idaho, e pluribus unum, and the year 1890, marking the year Idaho became a state. The design is simple at first glance, but it gives this quarter a strong connection to the state's history. Now look at the coin. We're examining in extra fine condition. The first thing you should notice is the amount of detail remaining on the surface. Because this quarter has circulated, you can expect some light wear on the highest points. Washington's hair and facial features may show some softening, and the raised portions of the reverse design can also have light friction. But the major lettering, date, mint mark, and falcon should still be clear. This is important because condition is one of the first things collectors consider. A heavily worn quarter and a sharply detailed quarter from the same year can have very different collector appeal. But here is where our treasure hunt gets interesting. A normal 2007 Idaho quarter is not automatically rare. Millions were produced, which means finding one in your change is not unusual. An extra fine example will generally have only a modest value above its face value, if any, unless it has another special feature. So why are we looking closely at it? Because the year alone does not tell the whole story. Start with the mint mark. Check the area near Washington's neck on the obverse. Depending on where it was struck, you may find a D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia. Compare your coin with another 2007 Idaho quarter if possible. Sometimes a difference becomes much easier to spot when you have a normal example sitting right beside it. Next, study the date and lettering. Look for unusual doubling or abnormalities that appear raised and consistent with the mint-made variety. Then move across the reverse and inspect the peregrine falcon. Look carefully at the wings, body, and surrounding lettering. Now check the rim. This is one of the easiest areas for a beginner to overlook. A major striking problem can sometimes affect the rim or the shape of the coin. If you notice an unusual edge, missing design, broad strike, off-center appearance, or another dramatic manufacturing feature, that coin deserves further investigation. But there is a major difference between a mint error and damage. A scratch is damage. A dent is damage. A dark stain is usually not an error. A coin that has been damaged by a vending machine, parking meter, or another piece of equipment is not automatically valuable. A genuine mint error happens during production, before the coin ever reaches your pocket. And now, we come to the question everyone wants answered. Could this Idaho quarter really be worth thousands? A normal 2007 Idaho quarter in extra fine condition is generally worth close to its face value, with collector premiums depending on the exact issue and market. Even uncirculated examples are common, enough that simply being bright and attractive does not make the coin a fortune, but an authenticated major error can be a completely different story, depending on the exact error, rarity, condition, and certification. Unusual state quarters can bring hundreds or thousands of dollars. Exceptionally rare and dramatic errors can bring substantially more. That is where the huge numbers you sometimes hear online come from. But I want you to be careful with claims of $450,000 or more. A normal 2007 Idaho quarter is not worth anywhere close to that amount. A six-figure valuation would require an extraordinary coin with exceptional evidence, rarity, condition, and a documented market result. Never assume a huge price simply because a social media post or online seller lists a coin for an enormous amount. Instead, learn how to identify what you actually have. Take your Idaho quarter and place it under good lighting. Do not clean it. Do not polish it. Do not scrape away dark areas. Cleaning can leave permanent marks and may hurt its collector value. Use a magnifying glass and inspect the date, mint mark, lettering, rim, and falcon. Compare both sides with the normal Idaho quarter. If you discover something that appears unusual, photograph it clearly and consider having the coin examined by a reputable coin dealer or professional grading service. And there is another reason this coin is worth remembering. The 2007 Idaho quarter is part of one of the most successful collecting programs in American history. The State Quarter series turned ordinary pocket change into a nationwide treasure hunt. Millions of Americans who had never considered themselves coin collectors began checking their quarters, saving interesting examples, and building complete state collections. That means the 2007 Idaho quarter isn't just another modern coin. It represents a period when American families were actively searching their change for something special. So if you find one in extra fine condition, take a second look. It probably isn't a fortune by itself, but the right error or unusual variety could make the coin far more interesting. And that is the lesson of this entire hunt. Never judge a coin only by its age. Sometimes the most valuable clue is a tiny detail hidden on a coin that millions of people have spent without giving it a second thought. But our search is not over yet. We still have another state quarter to examine, and this next coin could have a completely different combination of history, condition, and collector interest. So keep watching, because the next quarter may be the one that makes you check your own coin collection all over again. Now, we come to a much newer quarter. But don't let its young age fool you. This is the 2022p Maya Angelou American Women Quarters Program coin, and if you have one in extra fine condition, it is worth taking a closer look at before you spend it. At first glance, it may look like an ordinary modern quarter, but this coin carries an important piece of American history, and certain unusual examples can become much more interesting to collectors. The 2022 Maya Angelou quarter was the first coin released in the American Women Quarters program. a series created to honor American women who made important contributions to the country. Maya Angelou was a celebrated writer, poet, educator, and civil rights activist. Her appearance on a United States quarter makes this coin especially meaningful because it places an important American figure directly into everyday pocket change. Now, look closely at the coin we are examining. This is the 2022p version, meaning it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The small p mint mark can be found on the obverse side near Washington's portrait. That tiny letter is one of the first things you should check when identifying your coin. On the reverse, Maya Angelou is shown with her arms raised in front of a rising sun. The design represents her life, work, and powerful influence. The inscriptions United States of America, Maya Angelou, e pluribus unum, and $quarter surround the design. When you look at the coin under good lighting, pay special attention to the details in the figure, lettering, and sun rays. Now let's talk about the extra fine condition. An extra fine quarter has been in circulation, so you should expect some light signs of wear. The highest parts of the design may have slight softness, but the major details should remain easy to see. Washington's hair and facial features should still have good definition, while the Maya Angelou design should retain clear outlines and readable lettering. If your 2022p quarter looks much sharper than a typical circulated coin, with very little wear and strong original surface quality, it may actually fall into a higher grade than extra fine. That is important because condition can have a major effect on collector interest. But here is where you need to be careful. The 2022p Maya Angelou quarter is not automatically rare simply because it features Maya Angelou. Millions of these quarters were produced, and ordinary circulated examples generally remain close to face value. So if someone tells you that every 2022p Maya Angelou quarter is worth thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, don't believe that claim without evidence. The real treasure hunt begins when you look for something unusual. Start with the p mint mark. Make sure it is clearly formed and compare it with another 2022p quarter. Then inspect the date, lettering, and edge. Look for genuine mint-made abnormalities such as a major off-center strike, missing design elements, unusual planchet problems, or strong doubled features. Next, carefully examine Maya Angelou's portrait and the rising sun. Look for anything that appears dramatically different from a normal example. If you find a strange raised area, unusual shape, or doubling, do not immediately assume it is a valuable error. Many unusual marks on modern coins are caused by circulation damage or contact with other coins. One of the biggest mistakes new collectors make is confusing damage with a mint error. If a scratch cuts across the design, that is normally damage. If the edge is damaged from being dropped, that does not make the quarter rare. If the surface has been discolored by chemicals or the environment, that is not automatically a mint error either. A true mint error must have been created during the manufacturing process, and if you believe your quarter has a major error, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't rub the surface with a cloth or chemical. Leave the coin exactly as you found it and have it examined by someone who understands modern US coin errors. Now, let's talk about value. A normal 2022p Maya Angelou quarter in extra fine circulated condition will generally be worth around face value, perhaps with a small premium, depending on the collector market. Higher grade examples can be more desirable, especially when they have strong surfaces and attractive eye appeal. But a genuinely rare and authenticated error is another story. Major mint errors can sometimes sell for hundreds or thousands of dollars, depending on the error and condition. An extraordinary example with a very rare combination of characteristics could command much more. But claims of $450,000 or higher should be treated as extreme exceptions, not normal values for this coin. For a six-figure price to make sense, you would need something truly extraordinary, such as an extremely rare and authenticated error with strong documentation and serious collector demand. A regular extra fine 2022p Maya Angelou quarter is nowhere near that level. Still, there is something fascinating about this coin. Think about where these quarters have already traveled. They have passed through grocery stores, restaurants, banks, cash registers, vending machines, and family coin jars. Some were spent without a second thought. Others were placed into collections because someone recognized the importance of the person pictured on the reverse. And because this is a modern coin, you may still have an opportunity to find one in excellent condition. That is what makes modern coin hunting so exciting. You don't necessarily need to search through an old collection from the early 1900s. Sometimes the coin you are looking for is sitting in a pocket, a purse, a drawer, or a jar of change. Right now, take a 2022p Maya Angelou quarter and inspect it carefully. Confirm the P mint mark. Check the date. Study the lettering. Examine the edge. Look closely at the rising sun and Maya Angelou's figure. Then compare your coin with a normal example. If everything looks normal, you still have an important piece of modern American history. But if something looks genuinely unusual, that's when you should stop and investigate. And remember, rarity is not created by a dramatic story alone. Rarity comes from a combination of scarcity, condition, authentication, and collector demand. This quarter may be young, but it already tells a powerful story. It honors Maya Angelou and represents the beginning of a major American coin program celebrating the achievements of women throughout U.S. history. The next time you see a 2022p Maya Angelou quarter, don't dismiss it just because it looks modern. Turn it over, look closely, check the tiny details. Because sometimes, the difference between an ordinary quarter and a collectible isn't something you can see from across the room. Sometimes, it is hiding in one tiny detail that only a careful collector will notice. 1999 was a landmark year for the state quarters program, and the Georgia quarter is one that deserves a very close look. If you have a 1999 Georgia state quarter, especially one with strong detail and attractive surfaces, don't spend it before checking a few important things. This quarter may be common in normal condition, but certain varieties, mint errors, and exceptionally well-preserved examples can attract much more attention from collectors. The 1999 Georgia quarter was one of the first 5 state quarters released by the United States Mint, making it part of the very beginning of one of the most popular modern American coin programs. The reverse design features the state outline of Georgia, a peach in the center, and 3 important words: Georgia, 1788, and E pluribus unum. The peach represents Georgia's nickname, the Peach State, while 1788 marks the year Georgia became the 4th state to join the Union. Now turn the coin over to the obverse, and you'll see the familiar portrait of George Washington. The date 1999 appears below his portrait, and near the lower right area of Washington's neck, you can find the mint mark. A P indicates Philadelphia, while a D indicates Denver. That tiny letter can be very important when identifying exactly which version of the quarter you have. If your 1999 Georgia quarter is in extra fine condition, look carefully at the highest points of Washington's hair and face. You should expect some light circulation wear, but the main details should remain strong. The lettering should be readable, the rim should be complete, and the Georgia design on the reverse should still show good definition. Now here is where the hunt becomes exciting. The 1999 Georgia quarter was produced in very large numbers, so an ordinary circulated example is not automatically rare. In extra fine condition, most normal examples are worth close to face value, perhaps with a modest collector premium, depending on the exact issue and market. But coin collecting is rarely about simply finding an old date. It is about finding something unusual. Start by examining the peach on the reverse. Look at its outline and surrounding details. Then inspect the state outline of Georgia. Check the lettering, especially Georgia, and the date 1788. Use a magnifying glass if you have one, and compare your quarter with another ordinary 1999 Georgia quarter. Next, inspect the mint mark. A 1999p Georgia quarter came from Philadelphia, while a 1999D came from Denver. If you find something unusual around the mint mark, date, or lettering, don't immediately assume you've discovered a rare error. Modern coins often develop scratches, dents, stains, and contact marks during circulation, and these can look strange under magnification. A genuine mint error is different. A major off-center strike, a dramatic missing design element, a significant die problem, or another confirmed production error can make a state quarter much more interesting. The key is that the unusual feature must have been created at the mint rather than after the coin entered circulation. And there is one rule you should always remember: never clean a potentially valuable coin. If your Georgia quarter has dark areas, dirt, or unusual color, leave it alone. Do not use chemicals, polish, or abrasive materials. Cleaning can create scratches and permanently change the surface of the coin, which can hurt its collector appeal. Now, let's talk about the huge values you may hear online. You may see claims that certain 1999 Georgia quarters are worth thousands, tens of thousands, or even $450,000 or more. Those numbers should never be treated as the normal value of a Georgia quarter. A standard 1999 Georgia quarter in extra fine condition is not a six-figure coin. For a coin to reach an extraordinary value, it would need to be extraordinarily rare and have strong evidence supporting that value. That could include a major authenticated mint error, an exceptionally rare variety, an extraordinary certified grade, and documented collector demand. In other words, the year 1999 alone doesn't create the fortune. The special characteristics do. And that is why you should examine your Georgia quarter carefully instead of simply asking whether the date is valuable. Look at the date. Check the mint mark. Examine the peach. Study the state outline. Inspect the lettering. Check the rim. Look for unusual doubling or a major striking problem. Then compare your coin with a normal example. If you find a feature that appears to be a genuine mint error, that's when professional evaluation becomes worthwhile. There is also something special about the timing of this coin. The 1999 Georgia quarter was part of the very first wave of state quarters. Along with Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Connecticut, Georgia helped launch a collecting craze that spread across the United States. Families began searching their pocket change. Children started collecting all 50 states. And millions of people became interested in coins for the first time. That means the Georgia quarter has an important place in modern American collecting history. And think about this. When these quarters first appeared in 1999, most people treated them as ordinary 25-cent pieces. They went into cash registers, vending machines, parking meters, and coin jars. But some people saved them. And today, collectors still examine these early state quarters for errors, varieties, and high-grade examples. So, if you have a 1999 Georgia quarter, don't automatically assume it's worthless just because you have seen hundreds of them before. Take a closer look. A normal, extra fine example may only carry a small premium, but a rare and authenticated error can change the story completely. And if you happen to discover something truly unusual, don't rush to sell it based on an online price claim. Have it properly identified and, when appropriate, professionally graded. The biggest lesson here is simple. Valuable coins are often hiding in plain sight. The Georgia quarter may look like ordinary pocket change, but it represents the beginning of a historic American collecting series. And somewhere among the millions produced, unusual examples can still be found. So check your 1999 Georgia quarter one more time. Look closely at that tiny mint mark, the peach, the lettering, and the rim. Because the difference between an ordinary quarter and an exciting collectible could be hiding in a detail that most people never notice. The 1999 Georgia quarter is usually worth close to face value in extra fine condition. But comparing the P and D issues can show which one has stronger collector demand when the coin is well preserved.